All right, man, peace. So if I were to liken Steph Curry's game to any players in basketball history, it would be that I find his style to bear a likeness unto a combination of Pistol Pete Maravich and Jerry West, which bodes very well for Steph Curry in regards to how his legacy will be viewed after he's retired. I believe that he's going to end his career most likely with about 5 or 6 championships, maybe 1 or 2 NBA Finals MVPs, and as of right now, he has 2 regular season MVPs. So who knows how he'll be viewed after he's gone. We know that when he's evaluated in juxtaposition to all the other great guards in the history of the league, his impact is certainly going to be venerated. He's going to be viewed as a person who helped to change the game, to transition the NBA style of play from a pass-oriented style that was initiated by the Dallas Mavericks in 2011 to a three-point style that truly stretched the basketball game out. Because Steph Curry's range is out to 35 feet, it totally alters what you can do defensively. What the demands are that are placed on the defense have to be completely recalibrated because of how Steph Curry has helped to change the NBA landscape. Now it's commonplace to have many of the top guards and even small forwards in the NBA pull up from 30, and there are very few coaches who will say anything. Back in the 90s, there were only a few players that were even allowed to pull up for 3 off the dribble. Tim Hardaway, Mark Price, a few others. Scottie Pippen used to like to do that, especially in transition. But for the most part, if you were an NBA player back in the 90s and you pulled up for 3 off the dribble, you got pulled out of the game. Steph Curry not only pulls up for 3 off the dribble, but he pulls up from 35 feet. That's why I state that without a doubt in my mind, he's one of the top 5 most impactful offensive players that I've seen. Well, anyway, he sat down with Grant Hill to discuss many of his observations on the finals. So, of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
You guys have had just an amazing 4-year journey. Can you just reflect sort of overall on what these last 4 years have been like for you and for this ball club?
It's been a crazy ride for sure. I think this is something you always dream about, playing for championships, being on a team that you don't really know what your ceiling is, and every day you feel like you can get better. To play in the finals 4 straight years is something I never dreamed of.
I say this all the time. I remember watching Steph Curry at Davidson, and of course he was a potent scorer in college, but I definitely did not see what he was going to become in the NBA. I thought that he was too frail. At best, he may be a suitable starter in the NBA, but I certainly did not see him becoming a superstar of the magnitude that he currently is. So kudos to him.
You haven't won the first one. There's no feeling like the first one because it's the grind of just getting over the hump. That first time is so tough, and you don't really know what the experience is. The second time is kind of a validation. Every one of them is just special. It's something that you want to appreciate with the teammates that you go to war with every night. And I appreciate how hard it is to win a championship because this is the mecca of the NBA. Curry! It's all crazy to think about. I do my best to try to stay in the moment because I don't want this to pass by without really fully experiencing and appreciating what we're actually accomplishing.
That's very intelligent because it will be over very soon, Steph Curry. That's why they say that athletes die twice. They died in their athletic career and then, of course, their actual death. And that's why you notice so many of them, after they're forced to retire due to age or injuries or what have you, they go through a depression. I've stated before on this channel that there was a while where I would view Michael Jordan when he would make appearances at Charlotte Hornet or Charlotte Bobcat games, and it was very obvious to me that he was on something, whether it was strong alcohol or drugs or what have you, allegedly. I have little doubt about that, but hey, it is what it is. That's why it's so important for brothers to be grounded in something spiritual, because the carnal always changes. The fleshly world is being altered every day. And once again, a top athlete's career pretty much lasts from about the age of 20 to about the age of 35, maybe 37. And then after that, you have to live the rest of your life. And you retire a young man from the sports world. We see it all the time. You look at Allen Iverson. Whenever I see him, I see someone who clearly has an alcohol issue, allegedly. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Kobe Bryant has been able to convert his competitive and creative gifts that he was blessed with into something in the artistic world so that he can express himself. And of course, he's also Luciferian, but I mean, that's a whole other story. Point being is that he understood that he needs to channel his energies in another direction after he left his basketball career. And I believe that LeBron is going to do the same thing. He's already prepping himself for his transition out of the NBA. But that's a major issue for many of these guys, because that world that they dwell in, the professional sports world, it creates cults of personality for the top athletes, to where they start to embrace that delusional mentality that they're gods. They truly believe that for a while because of how they're worshipped, how they're venerated. You can see their fan bases tend to be ferocious, virulent, and I'm sure that it can be a very difficult transition to move from being on the top of the world, where every woman wants to have sex with you, every man wants to buy you a beer, all this other stuff, and now all of a sudden you're walking down the street and you're a quote-unquote used to be, a quote-unquote has been. So good for Steph Curry. We already know, at least according to the image that's presented for him, that he's grounded in family and so on and so forth.
We're playing in the finals, and this is what anybody who suits up in the NBA dreams of playing in, and we're here.
One of many things that I admire about the way you approach the game. You're competitive, you're an assassin, you're not afraid of the moment, you'll rip somebody's heart out with your play, but then you also have fun. And it's sort of the dichotomy of person.
Sometimes his ass has too much fun. Sometimes he has too much damn fun, to the point where he's more worried about the celebration after a shot or after a fancy pass than he is in getting his ass back on defense.
Of personalities, where this competitive playfulness, at least that's my observation. Is that accurate?
Yeah, for sure. I've always had a joy to what I do, and I always appreciate every opportunity I have to play the game, and doing it with a smile on my face, having fun. I'm goofy at heart, and that always kind of comes out when I'm out there on the floor. But there's also a sense of kind of a killer instinct, and it doesn't always have to have a scowl on your face.
Curry dribbles middle, pulls up from downtown, and good! Steph Curry drills another three!
I just know.
He most likely has the quickest release in NBA history off the dribble. He's up there with anybody in NBA history. His release is so fast. Ray Allen was another one who had an extremely quick release, but Ray was mostly off the catch. Steph Curry can pull up extremely quickly off the dribble. Shows he has tremendous hand-eye coordination.
I just know I have supreme confidence in my abilities when I'm out there on the floor, so I don't mind going for the dagger shots and the crazy plays that might get the crowd going.
Oh, he knocks it down!
Try not to ever lose the joy for the game, because I think not only do I feed off of that energy-wise, I think my team feeds off of that too.
Curry sets, fires, puts it up, bang! Steph Curry from way downtown!
Obviously, as a great player, when things are going, it's easy. But sometimes when things aren't going, it's tough. So my question, in those tough moments, does your confidence ever waver with your shot in your game when you're kind of maybe struggling a little bit out there?
Let me say this before Steph Curry answers that question, because that is a good question and very pertinent for Steph, especially with some of the issues that he's come across in the latter rounds of the playoffs. But I just wanted to touch on a lot of the evaluations of Steph Curry in regards to him being placed on the hierarchy of point guards. I don't consider him really a point guard. That's why I opened the video stating that I believe that when people make comparisons in regards to Steph Curry, his style of play, and where he should be placed in the annals of NBA history, it should be amongst the great combo guards. Players like a Pete Maravich and a Jerry West. Now, Pete Maravich, we never truly got a chance to see how great he could be, because when he was drafted into the NBA, unfortunately for him, they'd never seen a player like him before. So his teammates oftentimes did not know what to do with him. And then he had a lot of physical issues with his body breaking down, as well as his spirit starting to break down near the end of his career, where he never really reached the fullness of his potential. Now, in regards to Jerry West, we're talking about a player who was about 6'3.5", 6'4", a tad bit taller than Steph Curry, who during his era in the 1960s was a dominant offensive player. That's why I state that I have little doubt that Steph Curry could have been a great player in any era. Many people are fond of saying that this person could not have performed well in this era or that era. Great players are going to transcend in any era. So once again, when I see Steph Curry, I think of a Jerry West in combination with a Pete Maravich, except, of course, Steph's game is much more streamlined than Pete Maravich's game. Pete Maravich was a little bit too much of a hot dog. But he was before his time. If Pete Maravich was playing today, oh man, the NBA would be marketing him so hard. You'd have a Caucasian player who played in a style that was based around flair. So there would be a lot that the NBA would be able to do with Pete Maravich in today's game in regards to marketing. For those of you brothers who remember Jason Williams, a.k.a. White Chocolate, he came into the NBA, I believe, in the 99-2000 season. And they made such a huge deal out of him because he would make fancy passes and he had great handle. But he wasn't even a great player. But people still talk about him today like he was. So imagine if he actually was a great player. People forget that. Like, he was part of the renaissance of the Sacramento Kings because he was a component on that team that was being led by Chris Webber. But it wasn't until they traded him to the Grizzlies and got back Mike Bibby that their team went to the next level.
It doesn't. Obviously, we're all human and we all have thoughts that creep in. You know, when you're sitting there looking up at the board, like, I'm 0 for 9 from 3 right now. Like, I got to get it going somehow.
Yes, you're 0 for 9 from 3. So break your man down off the dribble with those great handles that you have and take some 17-foot jumpers. It's not that difficult, Steph. So next year, when you get to Game 3 and you're trying to go for that NBA Finals MVP, please be cognizant of your struggles in Game 3. And if you start off in a rough patch, this is assuming that the Golden State Warriors have home court in the finals next year, in the finals should they get there. Because normally they have home court, so Game 3 is on the road. I think that there's an adjustment issue that Steph Curry has in the finals in Game 3 because, of course, they're officiating differently. They're allowing more physicality. And, of course, that is going to lead to a drop-off in regards to efficiency on the road for a player like Steph Curry, who's so skills-based and not necessarily based in physicality. So he has to be cognizant of that. If he starts off slow on the road, Game 3, take it inside. Go mid-range. Try to drive it to the cup. If they're cutting off your driving lanes, the mid-range is always there. Steph Curry can get an 18-foot jump shot whenever he wants, and it's like a layup for him. We're talking about a guy who shoots 90% at the free throw line.
So you start to try to will yourself, back in the moment. And that's where all the repetitions and all the work that you put in come back. Because you know that next opportunity that you get, I feel like that one's going in no matter, you have amnesia about everything that's happened before then. And that's kind of what happened, Game 3. I had my teammates in my ear telling me, there's a big shot coming, keep shooting, whatever.
That was a phenomenal dribble move there by Steph Curry. Switching from left hand to right hand behind the back. A lot of people say, well, Rodney Hood picked up the wrong assignment. I think that he was confused by Curry's dribble move.
And I believed it, and it happened.
Knocks it down, Steph Curry from downtown, and the lead is 4.
And so I needed to make one before I left the gym. So
I can't believe Steph Curry has down on a shot. Like, it makes me feel better about my shot.
9
Well, anybody could see that Steph Curry, he goes into doubt mode, especially in those Game 3s on the road when teams get a little bit more physical. He handles it much better now than he did back in 2015 or 2016. But you can still get him to doubt himself, which is unfortunate because there's really nobody who can stop him in the league. Even when they play physical, once he gets the basketball, there's only so much physicality they can perform against him. Even when he gets the basketball, there's only so much physicality that they can exercise against him during the game. And the brother works out. He should be able to handle those bumps. He has to adjust his game and utilize the mid-range shot more, and that will take him to the next level in regards to some of the games that he struggles in. Now, of course, if the three-pointer is dropping, it's dropping. But adjust your game when you see that something's not working. It's not that big a deal. It's not rocket science. And he already has a great mid-range game.
triples, a new NBA Finals record.
You peppered me with questions. I gotta ask you a question. Where's Kristen? I thought she'd be sitting in this chair, kind of asking me all this.
Steph.
Yeah, that's what you was hoping for.
Steph, Kristen, always takes off vacation. She's never works. I never know where she is. So I fill in for Kristen. on these interviews. So I appreciate you letting me do that.
Almost like you got 2 jobs.
I got 2 jobs. They working me, man. Kristen, I don't know where she's at. I don't know.
Look at Steph. Steph is like, well, Grant, next time you see Kristen, you let her know that thing that we talked about, what she said she was going to give me for that exclusive interview. I decided that I'm going to give the green light to that. So just let her know. I'm going to give her the interview. She's going to give me what she says she's going to give me. And we good to go. In all seriousness, a lot of these sideline chicks, I remember when I was a kid, a lot of you brothers remember this sister. She still works for Fox. Her name is Pam Oliver. When she was doing her sideline reporting, or Leslie Visser also, the both of them, they were always dressed professionally. Now these sideline reporters, whether it's Kristen Ledlow or Cassidy Hubbarth or Roscoe Woody, these broads are dressing like they're going to the club. It's like, bitch, are you here to interview the athlete, or are you there to show off your titties? It's like, what the hell's going on here? So I have no doubt in my mind that a lot of these NBA players are smanging out these broads. I have no doubt in my mind. And they don't give a shit. Remember, the modern day liberal female feels like she's quote unquote owning her sexuality. So it is what it is. It's just funny to me that Steph happened to mention where Kristen was at. Even though I'm just joking around. Believe me, there are arrangements like that where athletes agree to give exclusive interviews to some of these broads in exchange for So peace.